Tune in to Nightlight with Kunda every week, Monday to Friday, from 21 hours to midnight, for a refreshing way, inspirational music, and just what you need to be encouraged. Nightlight, to lighten up your spirits.
Radio Christian Voice, your home since 94. Since 94. For myself 8 years ago, seeing what I see. When we stop dreaming, we stop breathing. Dreams play an important role in our lives. As many figures in the Bible are said to have been visited by God during their sleep. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brother.
Listen,
He said,
I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me.
welcome to Understanding Your Dreams, presented by Pastor Peter Kansembe from Praise Christian Center. This program has been tailor-made so that you can determine how much attention to pay to the meaning of your dreams. The dream is for the dreamer. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Understanding Your Dreams. My name is Pastor Peter Kansembe from Praise Christian Center. Once again, I bring to you greetings from our Bishop, Dr. Ed Kangambi. As usual, we start by reading from Proverbs chapter 33 and verse 14. The Bible reads, "For God may speak in one way or in another way, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men while slumbering on their beds. Then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction, in order to turn man from his deed, to conceal pride from man, and to keep his soul back from the pit, and his life from perishing by the sword." So we also see in Proverbs chapter 32 and verse 8, it says, "But there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding." So there are many ways in which God may speak to you and to me, and we see that in the Word of God, God has not limited himself to one way of speaking to us. And so we see that he has spoken to many in dreams. He has spoken to individuals. He has spoken to kings. Lives and destinies have been preserved. Warnings have been sent through dreams. And so dreams is one of the easiest way that we see that God really reaches anyone, because anybody can sleep and anyone can hear a message from him. So as usual, we see that God sends these messages primarily to keep a person from distraction, to keep from the pit, or to bring clarity in an area that he may not be sure about. And so we continue in this program looking at dreams, and in this segment we are looking at being lost or losing things. We have looked a number of times at being lost or losing things in a summary way, but today we want to extend it a bit, go further, look at more scriptures so that you may relate. You will notice in the Bible that in terms of the complexity of dreams, there are three types of dreams that you may see. There are simple message dreams that you can see in the Bible. For example, when you see the dream that Joseph had, the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing down to him, immediately the father and the brothers, they understood that this dream meant Joseph was going to be a leader, or was going to be greater than all of us, and we are going to submit to him. So that particular dream did not need special skills to interpret. The message was very clear. And also we see that when Joseph, the father to the Lord Jesus Christ, he was warned in a dream to take the child to Egypt, and he took Mary and Jesus to Egypt. Again, that was a simple warning dream. There was no symbolism. So one of the reasons why we look at these things is to be familiar with the way God speaks. Also make yourself familiar with the word of God, because whatever God speaks, it will be in line with his word. And then there are symbolic dreams that can be easily understood, and they are not complex. Again, when you look at the dream that Joseph had, the sun and the moon were simple symbols for them to understand. And so we see again that there are dreams like that that are just so basic when the Lord presents them, or when you have the dream and you know that this is what it means. And so with learning a bit of that, you find that you begin to understand what the message is. But then there are complex dreams that need special gift of interpretation. And we see that Pharaoh had one of these complex dreams which the Lord revealed to Joseph. Nebuchadnezzar had one of these complex dreams, and again Daniel brought meaning from the Lord to it. So there are those categories. So it's not everything that is always complicated, and our desire is that as we learn, we see those things. So now, dreams about being lost, there are those that dream they are lost on a path or lost on a road. They are driving somewhere and all of a sudden they lose direction. They don't know where they are, they are walking on a path alone, and they discover that they don't know where they are going. Some have talked about being lost in the bush, and they have no way of finding their place, their path home. Others say that they dream they are on a journey. From the beginning, they know where they are going, and suddenly, as the dream progresses, they just discover that they don't know where they are, they don't know where they are going, and they don't even know how to find their way back home. And then there are others who start off on a journey going somewhere they are confident they know, but they end up in a place they have no clue where they are and what they are doing there. So again, these dreams are the same as those who have, similar to those that have dreams they have lost things are being stolen, they can't trace their bags, they can't trace their clothes in their dreams, or they can't trace their keys or any other thing. So again, we are looking at dreams of being lost or losing things. So being lost could mean that you have no clear direction for your destiny or for your life. Now, this may do with life choices. There are those that want to get married, for instance, and they are not sure who they are going to marry. They have options and they are not clear. There are those that are not sure about the careers they want to take. Everything seems to be in a maze. And there are those who don't know where they want to settle, which church to go to, which company to work for. And everything seems to be lost before them. They are lost in a bush. There are those that are lost because they are not familiar with the route. This is, for example, those that want to invest in a business they've never done. You've never sold cars, and all of a sudden you have this bright idea that you are going to sell cars, and all of a sudden you find that you are lost in the bush. Maybe you are trying to pursue something that you are not familiar with, something that you don't understand, or taking a path that you do not know. So again, that could be like taking a route or going where you don't really know, or making choices that are not informed. So again, others have these dreams, and it could mean that you have thrown away the instructions. You have no instructions for what you are doing. Say, for example, if you are going to pass an exam, there are instructions that must be followed. If you don't follow those instructions, again, it will be as if you are lost, because not clearing the exam again is like you are lost. And there are other instructions for life. There are instructions that you need if you are driving somewhere, or if you are planning to do something. And then there are those who dream they are lost because they have discarded the instruction, or they have thrown away the map. And so we try to expand these few thoughts in the rest of the lesson as we go through. So we start with the last one. We say that they are those that dream they have discarded the map or thrown away the map. Let's see what Proverbs chapter 3 verse 1 says. It says, "My son, do not forget my law, but let your heart keep my command. For length of days and long life and peace they shall add to you." So here we see that the instructions that the father gives this person, they will add length of days to him, and they will give him peace. So if he discards these instructions, you will find that things are not very well with him. He may be lost. In Proverbs 4 verse 1 it says, "Hear, my son, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding, for I will give you good doctrine," or good teaching. "Do not forsake your law. When I was my father's son, tender, the only son in his sight, he listened to the teachings of his mother. So a person might be dreaming they are lost because they have just ignored their parents' instructions. There could be good instructions, good teachings, good direction your parents are giving you, but then you ignore them totally. Here, Solomon is told, pay attention to your father's instruction. Now, by way of example, we see that in the Bible, we see that the Bible calls God the father of Adam. In Genesis chapter 3, we see that God had given them everything and just said, this tree in the middle of the garden you shall not eat. But then they discarded their father's instruction or God's instruction, and because of that, they lost the way. So Jesus says, I came to seek and save that which was lost. When did they get lost? When they forgot or discarded the map or the instruction of God. So you could be having those dreams that you are lost simply because you are no longer following good teaching, you are no longer following instructions, and you are no longer paying attention. Samson also died a premature death. Samson was the strongest man in the Bible. He was told that you shall not cut the hair of your head, and he discarded that instruction, allowed Delilah to cut off his hair, and he died a premature death. We can say he lost his ministry and he lost what God had given him. So remember that God has a job description for you, and he has terms of reference. So we see that God gave a job description to man. You will till the land. This is what you are going to do, and this is what you are not going to do. You are not going to eat of that tree. So in the same way, your life, my life, has a terms of reference from God, what he expects you to do in your life as an individual and what he does not expect you to do. And if you do not live according to that plan that God has set in your heart, you find that you may have these dreams that you have lost, or you cannot find the way, just like Adam was lost and could not find the way. The other character we see is King Saul in chapter 15. The Lord has sent him to go and kill the Amalekites, and he decides to do away with that roadmap. He decides to keep the oxen and spare King Ahab. So now when he does that, we find that he is lost. He loses the kingdom. He is fired because he was not following the instructions that God had given him. So sometimes being lost, you can relate it to a failure to follow the map that has been laid down before you. We come to the third one we looked at. We looked at the guiding instructions. In Proverbs it says, do not forget the law, for length of days is in that teaching of the law. Now, when you talk about the law, it could be instruction, not necessarily the law of Moses as it is, but it could be instructions that preserve. It could be biblical teachings. It could be a good doctrine. It could be a good counsel of life. One of the things that you see about young people these days, they want to get in marriage without going through counseling. They just move into homes, they start cohabiting, and they watch all these movies on TV, and they think that marriage is as easy as it is played out on the screen. So they jump into that boat, and then within a short time they jump out because they find there is fire. And so the length of days of that marriage is not preserved, simply because the teaching was not followed, it was ignored. And so we see that instructions preserve. You could be embarking on that idea to get married or get into business or set up a church plant or move into leadership, but without instructions. You find that again you could have that dream that you have started a journey thinking you know where you're going, but halfway through the journey you are lost. So all these should be indicators in the life of a person that when you are lost, it's not always demonic, it's not always a spirit of something. Sometimes God is addressing you. And so we are looking at all these Bible stories where people lost things, where they became lost, and perhaps you could relate to one of them as we go. Now, somebody can be lost because they are not familiar with the route ahead of them, and so they are not informed. So let's look again at Proverbs chapter 18 and chapter 20 and verse 18 and 20. It says that plans are established by counsel. Make by wise counsel wage war. He who goes out as a talebearer reveals secrets. But here it says plans are established by wise counsel. By wise counsel, a war is waged. So you fight as you are informed. So if a person decides that I'm going to build a house, it's going to be a nice mansion, and then all of a sudden turns to you and say, I don't need architects, they're expensive, they think they know it all. I'm just going to draw lines on the ground, and then this house will go up, and then I'll make the rooms, and then he's building as he's going. Sooner or later, you find that that structure is not strong. That structure can collapse because the rules of the game were ignored. And so, without instructions, success is unlikely, because you are going into an area or embarking onto something that you are not familiar with. This also means that as we are planning our destinies and thinking of things that we believe God has put in our hearts, we need to thoroughly pray through them. Seek the face of God, seek the counsel of God, because you are embarking on a lifetime project. You are going in a way that you have never gone. Just like Moses, he was going to go on a journey he had never gone into the wilderness. Abraham was going on a journey he had never gone, and he was trusting the Lord to be his light and his guide. And so without making proper plans, without seeking the face of God concerning choices and decisions that we make, you find that you may have those dreams where you see yourself halfway through the journey, you are lost, and you could be so lost that you have no idea about to get back to where you came from. And so when you usher yourself into something without God's wisdom, again, you could have those dreams that you are lost or losing things. So again, we look at the first one we looked at, we are going in reverse. Is the first one we looked at could be refusing instructions. So we referred to Adam and Eve. God had given them clear instructions which they refused to follow, and they ate of the tree that God had not given them. And so what did they lose? They lost the opportunity to live in the garden in the presence of God. So being lost could be a result of refusing instructions, refusing to be counseled. Like I gave that example. I like to give the example of marriage, young people, because I know that young people are the most stubborn when they are in love and they are about to get married. Then all of a sudden their heads know it all, but afterwards then they discover that they should have gone through those classes. So refusing instructions. And we look at Genesis chapter 6 also, we see there is the flood of Noah. Noah is given instructions, he builds the ark, and then he's preaching the gospel or the opportunity for those people who were with him to enter the ark, but they thought he was confused, they thought he was mad, and so they refused the instruction. And what did they lose? They lost their lives. They lost the opportunity to be in the presence of God simply by refusing instructions. And so we see also on the path of life, when Lot has been moving with Abraham, he is given an opportunity to choose a land. And instead of letting his uncle Abraham choose for him a portion or choose for himself, he allowed himself to choose the best land. So he didn't honor Abraham. He chose the best land for himself. And when he chose that best land, a few years later we find that he lost everything. He lost the wife, he lost the wealth, he lost the sons-in-law, he lost everything because he settled in a wrong place. And so again, we can have these dreams that are warning us of losing everything. And we can go back to all these stories. Firstly, we know Lot was not really supposed to be with Abraham, but afterwards his headsmen were quarreling with Abraham. And maybe if he had humbled himself and said, my uncle, choose for me, you brought me all this way, maybe the situation could have been different. And so we see that he lost, and you could have dreams of losing because of refusing instruction or to follow laid down procedures. In Numbers 13 to 14, they refused to enter the promised land. So again, they lost a very precious thing. The harvest was ready, the fruit of the land was ready, but they said, we cannot go in because the giants are big. And so they lost the opportunity God had given them because they refused an instruction from the Lord. So again, dreams could come where a person is losing things, and they are really showing that there are instructions or there are things that you are not following. Then we come to Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 18. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 18. Here it says, how much better it is to get wisdom than silver. It is better to get wisdom than silver. And then the highway of the upright is to depart from evil. He who keeps his way preserves his soul. The one who keeps his way preserves his soul. And verse 18, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to be of a humble spirit and lowly, and to divide the spoil with the pride. So here he's saying pride goes before a fall. It could be a choice out of pride. When you look at the lost son in Luke chapter 15, before the father dies, he was ready for the inheritance. He says, Lord, I've lived, I've saved you, I've done my part. Now it's time to go. Give me my inheritance. It's like those children who want to grab things from their parents before their parents are dead. This is the kind of a young man that is here. He takes a decision, maybe out of pride or arrogance, or maybe he doesn't want to be to wait, and so he goes ahead of time, because it was not really time for him to get the inheritance. He blows away everything, and all of a sudden he comes back poor. So he lost everything because of wrong choices. So you could have dreams, you are losing everything, and God is warning you about your choices. What choices are you trying to make? Are you trying to get things before their time? There are young people who are competing with people that have worked for 30 years. They've earned their income and they drive big cars, and here is somebody who has just reported from grade 12, and all of a sudden they want to drive the same big vehicles like this, a person who has worked for 30 years and retired, and then they go ahead of time and they hate themselves. These could be some of the things that you could be warned. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 12, there's an interesting story there. One of the sons of Solomon becomes king after his father has died. Now, King Solomon was the richest man on earth, the wisest, and he did not become rich because things were just flowing. He put people under a heavy burden. There was heavy tribute. People were paying heavy taxes. And so when King Solomon died, the people said, okay, we appreciate he was a wise man, but maybe we need relief. This man was too much of a burden to us. We had God everywhere, but it was too much. And so the counselors, the people spoke to the counselors that went to speak to Rehoboam and said, if you will lighten the burden that your father put on the people, these people are going to save you. These people will trust you. They will be with you. They will be loyal with you. And then instead of listening to the advisors of his father who had died, he went and consulted his age mates, his friends, and his age mates told him, go and tell them that my father's burden was like my smallest finger. Now things will become worse. I will make it even more difficult for you. So when he made this decision, the nation rebelled against Rehoboam. The 10 tribes left him and he remained with a single tribe. So he lost the whole kingdom. Or let's say he lost 90% of the kingdom simply because of refusing to follow advice. Simply because of pride, everything was lost. So sometimes we need to examine, what choices am I making? Are they choices that are only good for me in the circumstances, or they are choices that will benefit everybody? And in this case, he made a choice just for himself and he lost it all. So there are times that we lose it all because of pride. Eli and his sons, they were ignoring the warnings of God. God was warning them against the wickedness of his sons. And so Eli had been warned by a prophet. He didn't listen. Eventually God spoke to Samuel, a young man, to speak to him and warn him. And still that counsel was not taken. And so we see that again, Eli lost the priesthood and the sons lost the opportunity for the priesthood that was before them. And God said, I had mentioned to you that your family will be established, but now because of your deeds, far be it from me that promise should be fulfilled. You shall never have an old man in your house. Simply because of a choice, he lost everything. Again, when we look at Esau in Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 6 to 17, it tells us that Esau was a wicked man, and for a single meal, he lost his birthright. In other words, he gave away everything because of his appetites, his desires. His desires became bigger than the promise of the inheritance that was before him. And so he despised it. And as a result of despising his inheritance, he lost it. And the Bible says, even though he sought it with tears, it could not be restored to him. So again, that could be a picture of losing things. Ananias and Sapphira, they lied to the apostles that they brought the whole offering to the feet. And what did they lose? They lost their lives. And so again, we see a man who almost lost it all is Jonah. He was sent to Nineveh. He decided to go somewhere else. But when he was in the belly of the fish, he repented. After he had been swallowed, and there God his prayer, heard his prayer, and the fish vomited him out. So he had almost lost his call, lost his ministry, lost everything. But at the very last moment, he called upon God, and God saved him. So you could be like Jonah. You are almost at the point of losing everything, and you are in the belly of the fish. Tonight is a very good opportunity to call upon God out of the belly of the fish, if these are the dreams you have been having. So until the next time, this is Peter Kansembe from Praise Christian Center. You may like my page on Facebook, Peter Kansembe Understanding Dreams, or you may send in your questions by text or WhatsApp to 0961 500 512, 0961 500 512, and we'll be more than glad to assist you. Until the next time, Shalom.